What's up, guys? Welcome back to a new episode of Out of the Park Baseball 26, where we have rebuilt the Pittsburgh Pirates. Nice to say that finally, after 4.5 years of management, our Pirates are World Series winners here in the year 2030. You can see we finished with a 94-68 record in the regular season. Our season score is a perfect score, actually, a little above perfect. You have all of the guys who contributed to the team this year. Of course, we are sitting at the top of the pyramid there, but let's just take a moment to appreciate everyone who was involved here. It was a great season, one for the history books, Pittsburgh's first World Series since 1979, and it was really dramatic all the way till the end. We were down we are facing adversity in multiple series. The Braves gave us trouble. The Orioles also gave us trouble, and overall we were able to come out victorious on the back of players like Dan Beebe and Connor Griffin, two of our young star players. But now it's time to look ahead. I think we've completed our primary goal in this series of winning the World Series and rebuilding the Pirates into a dynasty. But now we have to try to maintain that dynasty now. We're going to look ahead to the offseason today, work through the first half, I think, of the 2030 offseason. I have a lot of notes written down here on things that we're going to accomplish. Obviously, we have a ton of news to review. I'm going to do a light stat review when we're talking about players and considering who we want to bring back for another season with us. I think that will be helpful context to have. And then we'll go through arbitration, the player dev lab. We'll purge some contracts off of our 40-man. We will simulate through the offseason awards, and we will end at open free agency. So before we get into that, I just want to say thanks for sticking with the series so far. For you to, choose to return to these videos even after we won the World Series is awesome. I know you've probably invested a ton of time into the series over the last several weeks. It took about a month and a half for us to actually rebuild the Pirates successfully, but we've finally done that. And now I think I've mentioned this before, but I'm going to look to sort of speed up the cadence of these videos moving forward. So I'm going to try to do this offseason in just two chunks. We're going to go kind of handle the pre-offseason today, and then we'll do the rest of the offseason in the next video. That'll include actually making our signings, doing international free agency, and all of that. And then once we're back in the regular seasons, I can hopefully find a pace that I like where maybe we're a little bit less concerned with every single box score, and we're kind of just moving through the entirety of seasons in just 3 to 4 episodes. So that's what you can look forward to, I guess. Let's recap all of the news we received on the first day of the offseason. All right, first and foremost, we got a lot of messages to read here, but our owner is obviously ecstatic with all of our progress this season. We won the World Series. Fan interest is at the highest it's ever been. The team record was amazing. And, I don't think we're in any danger of losing our job or anything like that. So I'm not even really too dialed in on his goals anymore. I think we have pretty well established tenure, but you may be curious of our budget. He rewards us with a slight budget increase. We are now up to $212 million, which is good enough for the 23rd budget in baseball these days. So very, very cool to jump. I believe we were previously 28th or 29th. We're now 23rd. So big, huge jump there. You can see year over year, the budget has increased by a flat 12 mil. And, that's just going to help us maintain build the foundation of our dynasty, because we're going to have to start paying all these guys. We also had some option decisions needed. I ended up declining the option on Orion Kirkering. It was a $4.5 million option. While he was a positive WAR player for us last season, I was not exactly inspired by his stats, and he's becoming a bit weaker against left-handed batters. And I even though he is just 29, I kind of wanted to decline that. I felt like maybe we can negotiate with him on open free agency if we want to bring him back at a figure lower than $4.5 million. So we declined that. Hunter Green actually opted out of his deal, so he will hit the open market. He will test. Obviously, he's been with us for 2 seasons, had 2.2 WAR in his first year and 1.9 WAR in his second year, so pretty consistent. He is a really good player. He's a captain personality, which we like. Just 31 still, like pretty decent stuff against both sides. Obviously a home run liability, but in our park, it's a little easier to stomach. I don't know if we're going to look to negotiate with him long term because he kind of wants a flat 18 mil. This is around the ballpark of the salary he would have been on. I think he would have been on like 17 and a half, possibly 19. So he's kind of looking for that same dollar amount, just like guaranteed over a longer term. So we may, I think, QO him. If he comes back on the QO, that's fine. We can afford it. But if he doesn't, then we'll get a comp pick. So I kind of think that's the way we're going to play it with him. But overall, he had a good season. I'm unsurprised he would opt out on the back of that and try to get more money. We also declined the option on Brian Abreu. This should be no surprise. He was on a $9 million team option. So really big figure. He's obviously been our closer for several years at this point, 4 years in a row. He's racked up a ton of saves, 117 saves over those 4 seasons. And, you know, he was honestly good. 3.7 WAR is pretty solid for a reliever. His first 2 years were awesome, and then he kind of fell off once he turned 32. And this most recent year was slightly better, but, you know, he ended up not being our closer down the stretch and kind of cost us some games late in the playoffs where we sent him to the doghouse. So we're going to break ties with Brian Abreu here, but he was good for us very early in the sim, and I'm glad we signed him, obviously, but his time with us is over. We also have a big retirement. Our pitching coach, Frank Castillo, which was... this is pretty bad news because Frank Castillo had like perfect synergy with Dan Beebe and Jared Jones and Hunter Green. He specialized in power pitching. He was really awesome. So we have a bunch of coaching vacancies now. These were all coaches I let their deals expire like by design. None of these are surprising. I just wanted to move on from all of them. But we have a bunch of pending offers, which I have made. So we will hopefully look to fill all of those holes quickly. As far as prospects go, we got some news here. Ben Small maintains his rating. He is now 21. He is the 5th prospect in baseball. And, you know, he's kind of knocking on the door of a call-up. I don't think it's likely he would make the major league roster or anything like that, but he could be a non-40 spring training invite. He likely begins the year at AAA and could be a September call-up. He's really, really close. He's just kind of trying to get the contact tool there. He's maybe striking out a bit. He didn't have the best year in AA last season, but we still obviously really like him, trying to get tap into a little bit more of that gap power and just power in general in the dev lab this offseason, which we'll touch on in a second. But, you know, where does our system rank? This is actually the lowest we've been. We're 5th, and we only have 3 top 100 prospects. But Javi Ruiz has climbed all the way up to 16th in the prospect rankings. Tony Granger is 43rd. So only 3 guys there. As far as like other guys in the top 200, Kung Fu Panda debuts at 102. Ryan Malaguti, Wallace Cannell, Angel Rico, Danny Jimenez has fallen off the map. I think he's on bust alert. Brian Hiles and Jason Solis also round out the top 200. Of course, Mario Hernandez was our IFA signing last season. I gave him run in the DSL this year, which was maybe an aggressive promotion. He only had a 90 WRC+, but I was sort of, overcorrecting from the Danny Jimenez experiment where we waited way too long to get Danny Jimenez playing there. Felt like he was 17. Mario could at least contribute down there a little bit, and I think it kind of paid off. I mean, I think he came along a pretty far way there. So he's not recognized in the top 200, but we are still very high on him. And it's kind of bizarre, but Bill Bumgarner does not show at all here. So, we're seeing some stuff that I guess OSA does not with him. They don't really see his strikeout stuff there at all and his movement there at all, and we see it the exact opposite. So it'll be interesting to see who is correct in the end there. But obviously feel really good about having Javi Ruiz at 16, and Ben Small is obviously very, very close. Tony Granger, I think, will be close as well this season. I don't think he will make the roster immediately, but I think it's likely he pitches at AAA for the majority of the year and is kind of, maybe a September call-up or that first arm up if somebody goes down with injury. He's not quite ready yet. He only had 9 games at AA last season, and he actually had a strained forearm twice last year. So kind of a little bit scary with that. We'll try to get him in the dev lab as well to improve his attributes this offseason. So that is most of the major news. Obviously, arbitration has started and our development facilities have opened, but we have quite a bit of money to play around with the Hunter Green opt-out and the declining of the options of Kerkering and Abreu. We are sitting on $40 million of available cash. So, obviously we have some players taking higher jumps in their arbitration figures, but that is all pre-factored in here. So this is a true $40.6 million, budget for us to work with in free agency, and I don't really know how we're going to spend it because there are a ton of different ways we could take it. It just kind of depends. I don't think we have any glaring needs, but we'll get into the stat review in a sec, and maybe that will give us some clarity on what we should do. So we'll get started with pitching here. I have the table filtered for starters. These are players who have made starts in some capacity for us this season, so that includes Zane Petty and Tyler August. Obviously, we are financially tied to players like Dan Beebe and Jared Jones. Jared Jones is entering this 2031 year of his contract where he will make $18 million, and then we will have him on a guaranteed deal for next season as well in 2032. So I think we're just kind of babysitting this movement, hoping it doesn't regress too much. But overall, it was a big improvement. Well, not really a big improvement, but he managed to lower his home run per 9 year over year, kept the walks consistent, and overall was a pretty good player. Batters were hitting 270 against him in 2029, just 227 against him in 2030. So got a little bit luckier on balls in play there, and was overall a pitcher we felt more confident in going down the stretch. So I think it's likely he's our 2, depending on if Hunter Green accepts the QO or not. Obviously BB will go 1. If Green accepts the QO, he'll probably be 2. Jared Jones will be right behind Green. And then we have the 2 guys who, are still under team control, who are kind of just average, just like the innings eater, average guys. Obviously, Finn McElroy got 2 starts in the World Series, and, he lost one, he won the other. He is a really nice success story for us, 4th round pick, a guy who we drafted, who we feel good about, has plus control and a little more stuff to tap into. Obviously, he's on league minimum, so he's definitely going to be back. You just hope that he can remain healthy and be effective for us, but overall he's put up 2 strong seasons, 1.8 WAR in 29, 1.2 WAR in 30, and got much more volume this year, ate a lot more innings. Even though he had the same number of starts year over year, the innings are way up, and you see improvements in his ERA and regression in his FIP, I guess. But, overall, I think with the larger sample size, this was an improvement year over year for him, and I felt really good every time he started for us. So definitely going to factor him in. It just kind of remains to be seen if he will be our 3 or our 4. And then Mike Burrows is kind of the last guy we have here on big money. He's in arbitration. He has 1 year of ARB remaining. And I think I'm like kind of teetering on if we want to bring him back or not. He was just a 1.1 WAR player last season for us. If we go to his like career stats with us here, his WAR has sort of increased steadily ever since we brought him on. We pivoted him to a starter in 27. He was a 0.4 WAR player. He then went up to 1.8. Topped out in 29 at 3.0, where he was really, really tremendous. And then last year had a bit of regression, 1.1. Pitched much fewer innings because he had a shoulder injury in the middle of the year that was 4 to 5 weeks of recovery time. So, he's not really injury prone or anything like that. I'm not too concerned in that sense. I think it's just like, is this profile worth the, ARB estimate of 7 mil, like the 7 mil estimate. So I think he is steady. I think another factor in his favor is that he does have 2 option years remaining. So when I'm considering our like budget surplus this season of like $40 million, I think we can carve out maybe 6.5 if we can underslot him on his ARB in negotiations, maybe like 6 and some change to Burrows, and then we pencil him in as the 4-5. If he's terrible, we can just send him down, but I would rather be safe than sorry and just retain the 50 grade player. I think if we kind of remove Green, though, if we mock up our rotation, it would be something possibly like this, and then the 5th starter would maybe be Tyler August, because he was great last season for us as a starter. He started 9 games. The thing with him is that I think he's always going to be very, very volatile for us, but with the 40 control, you never know. But he has big stuff. He has a lot more room to grow there. He's 25, and he's also extremely popular with our fans. So, he's got a decent personality. He's got good work ethic, even though he is outspoken. I don't think that's a problem. I would be willing to give him a shot as the 5th starter and just kind of see how that works. He's similarly, we could rotate him out to long relief. Maybe Zane Petty starts as our long reliever for the time being next season if we don't have Green. But this is sort of, if we were to sign nobody, if we were to make no additions, this is how the rotation would probably look next season going into it. So I think it would be a bit weaker, obviously. You would hope that McElroy continues to grow into a very strong player, but losing Green would be a big loss. Pivoting to relievers now, I think this is where we're going to have the most turnover on the roster this upcoming season, because we have a lot of guys on expiring deals. We have Tyler Holton on an expiring deal, Randy Rodriguez, Jose Alvarado. So all 3 of our setup men currently, they're gone, unless we decide to bring them back, of course, but they're gone. We just declined the option on Orion Kirkering and Brian Abreu. They're both gone. Jojo Romero is also on an expiring, so he could possibly be gone. So we kind of have to pick and choose who we would like to bring back in this group of guys here of 7 or 8 players. It's quite a lot. We may look to tap our minor league system to bring up new guys as well, but guys who are confirmed to be back would be Carlos Mateo, who ended up being our closer down the stretch. He's just 25. He's also suddenly extremely popular as he, closed out the World Series for us at home. The fans will always remember those games. He's definitely going to come back, and I think we give him first shot at closer, given the stuff, given the movement. We will probably even look to get him in the offseason dev lab, given he's so young and under so much team control. So obviously he will be back and pitching high leverage for us. The other guy that we have under contract is Matt Brash. He is still with us under contract for 2031 at $4.25 million. This is a deal that I wish we had not signed, but I think it's likely he just kind of sits in that same middle relief role. I don't know that I want him pitching high leverage moments. We'll kind of see who else we were able to bring on into the bullpen. But overall, last season, it was a nice bounce back. 2029, he was horrendous. Only got 11 innings before we decided to cut bait and send him down. But I think this was actually his most effective year with us. We've had him since 2027, and in terms of WAR, it actually was. So he went 0.1 to 0.7, major setback, and then was almost a full WAR player for us this season. Only 36 innings, so it didn't get the most work, but 3.0 ERA, decent FIP. Didn't allow a home run, which is impressive, I guess. So he's kind of ditched his fly ball tendency and is now just neutral. So, he'll be back just because we're paying him guaranteed money. But, as Ben Abel as well will also definitely be back because he is on team control and the minimum. So I kind of want to just have him as a full-time lefty specialist next season. I don't really want to play him in AAA any longer. I think he should be able to function at the MLB level over a greater sample. He only had 15 innings and it's kind of a negative WAR player for us, but I'm not really too worried about that. I think I'm willing to bet on his attributes, but it really just comes down to which of these other relievers do we want to bring back. And we already mentioned we declined Kerkering and Abreu. Randy has been really good for us over multiple seasons. If we go to his pitching stats, he's only been here 2 years, but had a 2.8 WAR and a 0.9 WAR in those 2 seasons. So on the whole, 3.7 WAR combined, really strong numbers. The thing that kind of gives me pause is if we go into his scouting, he's actually starting to kind of regress across a majority of his categories here. I don't know that we want to tie ourselves to him long term. Even though he is durable and relatively young, just 31, there's been some regression against left-handed batters where he's maybe not as strong as he was when we had initially brought him on. So it kind of just depends what's on the open market. I don't think we're going to offer him a contract now. If we were, I think it might be a little pricey. I mean, it's sort of within expectation of what he's currently making, like 4.25. He kind of just wants the same, but guaranteed. So we'll kind of see what we want to do here. Maybe we bring him back if I don't like what's on the open market. Other guys who have been with us a while are Tyler Holton and Jojo Romero. I think Jojo I kind of do want to bring back, which is crazy. I've always hated on him, but he's honestly turned it around these last 2 seasons and been really strong. We've gone over how well he meshes with our coaching staff. He still has plus movement, and he's a really effective ground ball pitcher. Even though he does throw a sidearm, I like that he has greater stamina. He has 35 stamina. So even though he is regressing a little bit in terms of his velo and stuff, when I look at kind of the effectiveness of his movement against both sides, I think he is still a quality middle relief arm, and I don't expect him to want much money. So I think it's likely we offer him to come back as a middle reliever. So we will have him and Brash. We're just looking for the back end guys. We have Mateo back there, but we need some more setup guys. So will Tyler Holton be that guy? I'm not sure. This is one where I'm I think he may be a little bit more at risk of becoming a home run liability. He doesn't have the same movement as JoJo. His movement is just 50, and I think it may be regressing even though he has great control and a good pitch mix. And he's been an awesome player for us, over the course of his Pittsburgh career. He's a 3.0 WAR player, and he's been with us 3 seasons, has been awesome, has pitched a ton of volume every year, has improved his ERA every year and his whip as well. So it's tough to let him go, but at 34, I just worry that he's going to start giving up home runs, and it's not going to be pretty once he does start to regress. So he recently improved his stamina, but he's kind of, I don't know, just a little more risky for me. I'm not totally willing to write him off, but I don't think we bring him back. And the last guy I will mention here is Jose Alvarado, who ended up being solid for us, was not nearly as effective as he was in St. Louis for us in the regular season, but I think he pitched well in the playoffs. He's a sinker cutter guy. he could honestly serve as a back-end leverage lefty if we needed him to, even though he is, going to be pushing 36. I think I feel much more confident in his movement maintaining, and he doesn't necessarily have to strike guys out if he is able to keep the ball in the park and, induce soft contact. So he's kind of wanting a little bit, he wants $5 million and he wants to be guaranteed as the closer. So I don't know if we quite see eye to eye on that, but on the open market, we'll kind of weigh him against other leverage lefty options. So I think we do kind of need a leverage lefty if we kind of cycle off everyone who we're, not bringing back for certain. This is kind of what we're working with. We just have 5 guys. We have, middle relief options, long relief options, specialist, but we need setup arms. So, I think it's possible one of Randy or Orion returns, and, maybe Alvarado as well, but we're kind of going to wait and see, I think, to fill out the rest of our bullpen. So this is where likely the majority of our available budget will go. All right, we'll try to speed through the lineup part a little more quickly. I think there is less turnover here, so we're largely going to be running it back with the same group of guys. Starting with the catchers, both of them are still under team control. Axel Plaz is still on a league minimum deal, so there's no reason for us to switch things up here. Alfonso will be the primary catcher, and Plaz will come in against left-handed pitching. You can see their stats on the whole, both above average league players with their WAR. Plaz has grown. He kind of just maintained. He was not as effective against or from the offensive side this season, I guess. He kind of, was just a league average player, 99 WRC plus, but obviously I still really like him. He's still young, a positive defender. We're definitely bringing him back. Both catchers kind of had down seasons, if I'm being honest, because Alfonso also regressed in his WRC plus, but still brings a big arm behind the dish, and he is a captain personality. I think he will be our captain moving forward, because if we lose Green, that's one captain down, and Nick Gonzalez is a captain as well. So we need a captain on the team. Alfonso at just 27, he's obviously going to fill that role, but he's starting to enter arbitration. This will be the first season where he is eligible for those ARB pay increases. We'll have to negotiate a deal with him for sure. On the infield, this is a little more interesting. I think guys who are, obviously factored in for us because they're under team control are Elian Pena, Termar Johnson, Camden Koziel, Alex Harrington, Johnny Severino. The question mark is if we bring back Nick Gonzalez or not. From a WAR perspective, he was our best player. He was also I think our highest WRC plus player, hitter this season as well. So, he's been awesome every year. It's just a question of if he can stay healthy. If we go to his career stats here, he is a 15 WAR player for us, which is really, really awesome. This was his best year, came in his free agency year here in 2030. Even though he only played 107 games, it was his highest WAR season. This is the first year we moved him to third base, so getting him out of all the action on the middle of the infield really benefited him. But I don't think it's likely that he returns. I know he's a extremely popular player. The fans are going to be really upset that we lose him, but I just fear injury with him long term. I don't think it makes sense to tie ourselves to a player who cannot be readily or reliably in the lineup for us. I think he's borderline wrecked. I don't really know how that works. I assume it's just accumulating over time. The more injuries stack up, the closer you push toward wrecked. I feel like he's got to be close at this point. He is coming off, like I said, a season where he only played 107 games. He is a prime QO candidate. If we, wanted to negotiate a deal with him, this is kind of what he's expecting. We could definitely afford it. There's no question, but we would have to, really protect ourselves with team options. And I don't know that would be an enticing deal for him to consider and possibly want to sign. So I think if he sits on the open market, maybe we come back to it. But for the time being, I'm just fine to QO him and see if he accepts that or not. Hopefully he would not. But, we still have Termar under team control. He's entering his second year of arbitration, I believe, where he is expecting a pay raise up to close to $11 million. He will obviously return. I think he had a bit of a down year, not his best. We played him at second base more this season. Previously, he was getting a lot of run at third base and left field, so maybe he was not really thriving as much with the 55 infield range at second base. But looking ahead toward next season, I think we can move him off of that because we now have Elian Pena operating fully at the major league level. He got 2.3 WAR for us, not the best hitter, but I really, really want his defense at second base this season. I'm envisioning a lineup up the middle of Sanford at short, Pena at second, Termar Johnson sliding over to third. So I think that would be really awesome for us. Pena, just 23 years old, is still on league minimum. Definitely want to get him in the dev lab to try to, maybe boost his power, considering he's so young and under so much team control with the great personality. And additionally, we've had many injury concerns with Wyatt Sanford. Obviously, he's our best batter on paper from an attribute perspective, but he is borderline injury prone, and Pena is critical to build around because he is our best backup shortstop option. I think from the most well-rounded in terms of being able to hit and field, and he filled into that role awesome for us this season. We have other guys like Alex Harrington, who I think is likely just a backup middle infielder for us next season, brings that plus glove, but you don't think the offense is ever going to be there for the former 4th overall pick. We had hoped and dreamed that he would turn into Bobby Witt Jr. That is clearly not the case here, but the low work ethic and unmotivated personality kind of, I think really docked his ratings over the course of his minor league career. But I think he'll just be a backup up the middle guy who provides us with that plus glove. And then we kind of have our guys on the corners next. We have Johnny Severino and Camden Koziel. Johnny Severino actually had a surprising stat line. When I was reviewing these, I was like, I couldn't believe how much playing time and production Johnny Severino had for us. But he finished as a 123 WRC plus player, 1.4 WAR, 19 homers, which is almost tops on the team, and 51 RBI. So he kind of came out of nowhere for us. And you may think I'm crazy for this, but I sort of want to pencil him in as our starting opening day first baseman next season because we lack right-handed batting so much in our lineup. I think I would want this glove at first. He's honestly capable against both sides. He's definitely a lefty masher, so I think if we slot him in the lineup between two left-handed batters who struggle against left-handed pitching, he's kind of like the stopgap in between those guys to, curb strategy against, lefty specialist pitching from opposing managers. He's kind of like the, solve for that, and he brings the plus defense. I just want to build off this strong season because he's, about to be 26, still under a ton of team control. I think he could factor for us. And Camden Koziel is sort of like the odd man out. I know he was really successful in the playoffs for us and was actually the MVP of the NLCS, but he's not the traditional first baseman profile where he has, tremendously strong BABIP and gap power, but I think, he could fulfill a backup role for us admirably. He had a solid season, although the WRC plus is just a 99. He does strike out quite a lot, doesn't really walk at all. Brings good defense. If anything, I think maybe he's our corner infield backup next year. If we have Harrington up the middle, we can have Koziel back up first and third, and maybe Severino starting at first base. So he's capable against both sides, but again, he's never really going to walk at all. You just love the BABIP upside of him. So he got a lot of playing time for us last year. I don't know that he'll ever factor in, that same way for us, just because I think we have better options that bring more power to the dish. Obviously, Aiden Miller, we're probably going to cut. So no other things to mention here. Wyatt Sanford is obviously on the injured list currently, but he is due back soon. And, he's one of our best players for sure. Finally, we'll touch on our outfielders here. Obviously, Connor Griffin is, if we didn't have Wyatt Sanford, I would say Connor Griffin is our best player. He had 6 WAR for us last season, OPS to 825, stole 30 bags, had 22 homers. He's going to be awesome. He's extremely popular. He's still going to be on league minimum next season, which feels criminal. But, there's no reason really for us to pay him and limit ourselves financially because he's not going to sign for a discount any longer. You can see it's just crazy. It's crazy what he wants. So we're just going to play it year by year into ARB. Once he's in ARB, maybe we buy out all of his ARB. But obviously he will return as our primary center fielder. And then I think all of these other guys will return as well. The only one who will not is O'Neal Cruz. I think his time with us is done. So we're just going to eat this dead money. I'm fine with it. We're going to waive and DFA him, I think, in the coming days here. It's already factored into our budget that we're paying him this, so it should have no effect on our available money. It will still, remain the same. He just will not factor for us. He's a negative WAR player. It brings nothing defensively. We're good on that. We have so many young outfielders we need to slot in that there's just no room, plain and simple. So I think next season we'll look forward to Esther Suero probably stepping into a full-time left field role for us. He's a switch hitter, had a really strong season for us this year. I think his best in the majors. He's built on all of his previous years. He was a 1.4 WAR player for us last year and brings really good defense. And then Carson Benj in right field. He's coming off of a really down year, but he's still, under team control. He's entering his first year of arbitration. It's not a high demand. I think we bring him back and bet on him rediscovering it. He was previously close to a 30 home run player for us, and this most recent year he was just not effective at all, barely hitting 200. Still a positive WAR player. I like his defense in right field. If we go to his fielding stats, as a right fielder, he has a really positive range, zone rating, efficiency, and good arm value. So definitely like keeping him in right field. So I think next year we're looking at Suero in left, Griffin in center, Benj in right. Lantigua can also play the corners and back up center field, but he's probably our DH. He's fragile. We kind of want to protect him, but he's a 2.1 WAR player for us. So 77 RBI, I think, is maybe tops on the team. He's also decent on the base paths. Really just strong hitter overall and a popular player as well. So still on the league minimum. He will definitely return for us. So that is the lineup. If we go to full-on team leaders, we had 3 guys with 22 homers. Alfonso, Griffin, Lantigua, Severino, and Benj are kind of next in line. Not many homers from Termar. I think it was a real step back for him in terms of slugging this season. RBI leader was Edward Lantigua. Connor Griffin approaching 70, but we kind of spread the love around. All of our production was pretty even across the board. No one had a standout season. Steals, Connor Griffin with 30, only caught 3 times. Suero also very productive. Lantigua, we're a pretty good running team, and I think that is shown here. In terms of WAR, it is Connor Griffin far and away above with 6.0, and then Elian Pena is a top 4 player for us with 2.3. So overall, I think we'll likely look to run it back with the same crew, and there is some flexibility depending on off-season training and which of our prospects kind of end up pushing for spots at the major league. But that's the stats. That was quite a bit. Let's show what I'm thinking with arbitration and the dev lab. All right, we're at the ARB screen. A lot of this is just going to be what we have previously reviewed, but you can see we've offered contracts to everyone here who is eligible for ARB, including Mike Burrows, because, as we mentioned, he has that option flexibility. If he ends up stinking, we can send him down, but I kind of like having him as a steady 4 or 5 starter for us. All these other guys are getting renewed. We offered multi-year deals to Alfonso and Sanford. Not deals that would buy out their free agency years, but we're just going to purchase all of their arbitration right now. So I'll show you what that looks like in a sec. As far as other pending free agents down here that are compensation eligible, The only one we are renewing is Jojo Romero, who is willing to consider a pretty low annual salary to return for us. So I like, betting on that. We need some sort of lefty who can fill middle relief. So we've offered him. We're letting everyone else test. We've got QOs on Gonzalez and Green. If they choose to accept those, we can afford it. If they don't, we'll be rewarded with draft capital. So we'll kind of just see how they want to play it. We're not going to offer Jose Alvarado for now. We're going to let him test as well. And then we have a couple of renewals down here in the minor leagues. But I'll show you sort of the dollar figures on the pending offers. So Jojo, we offered a 2-year deal with a team option on the second year, but he's only wanting 2.25. I felt like that is something we can stomach for sure. Mike Burrows gets a 1-year, $6.8 million deal. Termar just gets a single year, 11 flat. Alfonso gets 3 years, totaling 27 mil. So we're just buying out each of his 3 years of ARB. Nothing fancy. He will still hit free agency when he is able to at the earliest available year. And same for Wyatt Sanford. We're buying out all 3 of his years. So we're able to lock him up for 31.5. He will get 10.5 average salary across those years. So a little bit more expensive than Alfonso, but the fans should be really happy. I'm trying to, part of the strategy as well is like signing them to long-term deals, I think will boost our fan interest because we are definitely going to lose fan interest by not retaining Nick Gonzalez, as he is an extremely popular captain player. So like these should be pluses in our favor. That will obviously be a negative. Carson Benz just gets a 1-year renewal at 2.75. And then we have all of our minor league deals here as well. So that is ARB. Let's move to player dev. Taking a look at player dev, this year is going to be very, very prospect heavy. I was sort of looking for opportunities at the major league level on guys that we want to get in there. Ultimately, everyone is pretty fully developed, and I'm still like very risk averse with Dan Beebe, even though he has more potential to unlock. I just don't want to chance it with him, and feel similarly about a lot of our other guys here. So like Harrington, you could consider getting in there, but he has low work ethic, so I'm not confident in him like achieving any favorable outcome there, and we've honestly tried to get him in there before, so he's kind of off the table as well. A lot of these other pitchers are in our bullpen are expiring. I don't know that it makes sense to get anyone in there, so we're only doing 2 major league guys. First up is Carlos Mateo. We're putting him on a movement program. He obviously has great strikeout velo, but you hope he can keep the ball in the park if he's going to be a long-term closer for us. So that is sort of the strategy there, hoping to make him more effective against left-handed batters. Elian Pena, I mentioned wanting to build around. We're going to put him on an aggressive bat speed program because I view him as our second baseman for the next 4 or 5 seasons, and we don't really have anyone else coming up that brings the same level of upside as he does. He's also, like I mentioned, a capable backup at shortstop should anything happen to Sanford. So if he was able to unlock a little more power against right-handed pitching, he would be a tremendous player for us, and an outstanding result would be amazing. Feel good about him achieving that with the high work ethic and IQ. Then we're going down to the minors. So everyone else from here on out is a minor league player. We're starting with Tony Granger, who we're trying to get more movement out of. His lowest attribute is home run allowed, plus his control too. But he was averaging 1.3 homer allowed at AA. I kind of think the movement program is a little bit easier to achieve. We had a successful result with his control last season. If I'm projecting him ahead to AAA here, the control is at 45, but the homer is still at 40. So I think the movement is where we need to work with him to unlock that upside. So that's what we're doing with Tony. We're getting Ben Small in there as well on a gap power program. This is his this is ratings relative to the MLB. So he's really, really close. We know gap power plays well in our park. So we're trying to, realize that 20-point upside there with him. His ratings relative to AAA there is still quite a bit of upside there, 25 points of upside. So, he has a lot of room to grow. Just want to make sure he maintains that plus gap power. And it's another medium difficulty program. So a lot of medium difficulty programs here, not too many ambitious ones. Bill Bumgarner, Merlin, will get a control program. We view that as his lowest attribute. So hopefully this can boost him up a bit, his ratings relative to rookie ball. The movement is kind of borderline, but the control is as well. You can't go wrong either way, but we're going to go control because, we view that to be the furthest away. So hopefully he can improve that. Javi Ruiz will return for a plate discipline program just because I see the power. We're trying to grow these two attributes in tandem. Last year he had success with bat speed, and it is now a 35. Eye is a little bit lacking, 30, so we're going to try to boost his eye up here this offseason with a medium difficulty program. And then we're adding our new draftee Kung Fu Panda as well. So, we see tremendous power upside here in the long term, but he's not really there currently. It's only a 25 on the true power scale. So we're going to push him on a difficult program to generate more bat speed if we go to his ratings relative to the league. I think he may struggle this season just being so far away. He is Canadian and coming from that poor competition level, but we're trying to realize that power upside with him over the long term. Hopefully he can find it. And we're also putting Mario Hernandez, our international free agency signing, on a bat speed program. We still think there's 70 power in the tank for him. He was not really hitting for much power in the DSL last season, so trying to find that for the left-handed 17-year-old shortstop. Last two spots go to sort of unknown players, or I guess little-known players. If we go to our prospect rankings, I'm not sure who else. We could have gotten, pitchers like Luke Thompson or Brian Wyatt, our outfielder, in there. Wallace Cannell has really surged lately, a shortstop prospect who is still just 20. There are other pitchers here as well that we could have considered, but ultimately we went with these two. Bill Zimmerman is a former 11th round draft pick out of high school for us in 2028, and he's really discovered the stuff, you guys. He's throwing near triple digits, has good baseball IQ, not the best stamina, but he already has 2 80-grade pitches. And I was sort of like, whoa, where did this guy come from, We're going to try to get more movement out of his pitches. Right now, this is ratings relative to MLB, by the way. So, he could come in right now and get strikeouts against both sides. The cutter is really effective against, left-handed batters. He does throw right. So, he's borderline major league ready. I just want this movement to come on a little bit more. If the movement is 50, if I'm seeing 50 on both sides here, I don't mind the 40 control for a reliever. I think we could give him a shot at pitching at the major leagues at just 21 years old. He has been tremendous through a couple of years at A-ball. Last year he played across 2 levels, high A and A-ball. So, at the very least, he'll go to AAA this year and continue to develop. But if he gets a successful result here in the lab, maybe he is a reliever for us at the major leagues. And then we're doing gap power with Gabe Arellano. Gabe Arellano is a IFA signing we made in 2027 who has excelled throughout our system. He has been tremendous at every single level. He most recently played at high A last season where he was a 3.5 WAR player, and he's borderline major league capable right now. He was a IFA signing the year where we had really tight budget constraints. We only paid $400,000 for his services out of Venezuela. So, we think he has potential 80 grade gap power, which would be insane in our ballpark. And he's also a switch hitter. So another outfielder to add to our logjam in the outfield. He's got plus speed, good at base running. There's a ton of stuff to like here. I don't know that he's ever a true center fielder, but, left field and one of the corners, the switch hitter, looks pretty good against both sides. We are trying to, realize this gap power potential. And I think it's likely he starts next year at AA, potentially pushes to AAA by the end of the year. He's about to be 21. I think that kind of aligns with his timeline. And then, a year or two from now, maybe he is one of our starting outfielders. So that is what we're doing in the dev lab. Again, not many MLB players this year, but I think our system is so strong. We have, a couple guys that were near misses. Phil Goodall and Brian Hiles are both currently in the Arizona Fall League. I didn't want to put them in the dev lab should they suffer any sort of injury in the Fall League that would halt their progress. But they're both players who are kind of knocking on the door of debuting as well. Phil Goodall looks really solid. He already has like a plus contact profile, especially against left-handed pitching. So as a plus defender, I think he is probably the first outfield call-up should anyone go down this season. But we'll probably start him at AAA. He's never played at the AAA level, so I think he could still grow a bit there. But that's the Dev Lab. Next, I'm going to purge some contracts off of our books. Alright guys, apologies for this video running a bit long. I've simulated all the way through award season. Last we checked in, we kind of handled all of our business that needed to be handled, so I've just decided to go all the way through and we will recap everything together and end the video. But I had mentioned I wanted to clear out some salaries before the year turns over by waiving and DFAing some guys off of our 40-man, so I have made a list of those players here that I will start working through here to show you. We're going to, there may be some spoilers here that like show contract extensions that we have since signed, but we're going to start with Shosei Fujimoto. We actually have quite a few players that we're going to be moving on from, so we are going to waive and DFA the Japanese pitcher. We are also going to waive and DFA Dean Curley. This is the end of an era for Dean Curley, our very early draft pick in the series for us. We will be placing him on waivers as well. He was a former second-round pick back in 2025 that really just kind of hit a ceiling and was never able to break through that. We're also going to waive Yordani De Los Santos. I think we can find similar players to this, and he has sort of regressed over the last year or two. He had maybe one and a half good years with us at the majors, but he's not really there anymore for us. We're going to waive and DFA Adonis Guzman as well. He was always sort of a defensive backup for us, captain personality, but doesn't really have the bat to stick at the majors. We're waiving Kevin Jaxel, a 20th round reliever that we thought may have potential for us, has never materialized. We're waiving and DFAing him. We have a couple of more guys. We're waiving and DFAing Aiden Miller, who we now just view as a 40 potential player. He never really grew into the player that we expected him to be. We obviously acquired him through the Rule 5 draft several seasons ago, but, had his time with us. It is now over. We have a couple of more here. Jonathan Santucci is going to be waived. He was a miraculous one-time All-Star for us, but I think we have other lefties in our system that we can possibly use, and he has one option year remaining, so we could have kept him, but I think his control being so low at 35 just kind of removes him from the conversation. And finally, a real heartbreaker, we're going to waive and DFA Nate Snead. Just to get him off the 40, we will pull him back if he does get claimed, but I don't expect him to be. He is another former second-round pick in 2025 who has battled tremendous injury. It's still possible he turns into a reliever down the road, but it will be a miracle if he does. So those are the waive and DFA guys from the minors and kind of fringe 4A players. So we've cleared up quite a bit of space. We have one more here. We're going to waive and DFA O'Neal Cruz. This is the end of an era for O'Neal, so we'll take a look at his lifetime stats. He is a 15.3 WAR player on the career for us, 164 homers, striking out 30% of the time, batting just 224. I don't think he has a place with us anymore, which is unfortunate because he's one of the last real life Pirates on our team. So we're gonna say goodbye to him, and we are going to waive and DFA him and then likely just release him. I may wait until the season turns over before doing so, but expect that change by next video, but we've trimmed our 40-man down to 33, I believe, which is pretty good. I'll have to do another pass of this in between episodes, but let's recap the news. We have a bunch of signings to get to. JoJo has signed. Mike Burrows has signed. Termar has signed. The fans are really happy about all of these. Omar Alfonso has signed. I'll give you a look at his deal. Again, we just purchased his 3 arbitration years, no more, and the final year is a team option, so we have an out if we need. The fans are very excited about all of these signings. Carson Benj has signed. Wyatt Sanford has signed as well, and he is now back from injury, and he's back to being fragile. So the broken kneecap or fractured knee was, a little more serious to his long-term health than we had, maybe hoped, but I can't say that I'm unsurprised. His contract is just very similar to Alfonso. We're only buying out the RB years, and the final year is a team option should he, become wrecked or whatever. But we get all those guys. We've filled all of our coaching staff needs. The development lab is underway. Our fan interest currently sits at 97, though I would expect that to come down once we lose popular players such as Nick Gonzalez and Hunter Green. That will probably regress back down closer to, I would hope it stays above 90, but we'll kind of see. But we've got a ton of money available. We got 45 mil to play with for open free agency, but we've also got awards to look at as well. So if we go all the way back to Gold Gloves, we will start with the American League. You can see there are definitely some new names here that I'm not familiar with. I assume generated players by this point. In the NL, we get some recognition. Carson Benj is a Gold Glove Award winner in right field. So we had trained him in the offseason last year to get better defensively. It looks like it paid off. Best AL reliever goes to Jason Foley of the Boston Red Sox. Pretty split vote between him and Brian Mendoza of the Angels. In the NL, it is Reed Garrett of the Phillies, narrowly beating out Tyler Holton. I guess, well, not so narrowly, but beating out Tyler Holton. Our guy places second. Again, I don't know that we'll look to bring him back. It's kind of up in the air at this point. Silver Sluggers in the AL, you can look through here. Pretty, chalk names: Gunnar Henderson, Riley Green, Sebastian Walcott. Julio Las Montes hits 37 homers for Seattle. Pretty solid seasons for everyone here. In the NL, we get one piece of recognition. It is Nick Gonzalez with a 143 WRC+. plus. He gets the nod at third base. Ellie De La Cruz, 6.6 WAR season again for Ellie. James Wood makes it. He ended up signing a big extension with Washington. I checked to see, and he is on a massive 8-year fully guaranteed deal through age 35. So the Nats lock up their star player for the long term. They were able to come to terms at some point in the playoffs. As far as Rookie of the Year goes, in the AL, it is Saulu 2, the very well-paid outfielder. It looks like he ended up hitting 243 for a 786 OPS, hit a ton of doubles, but I don't know that production lives up to the contract he signed in the most recent offseason. I guess 4.1 WAR isn't too bad, and he is a fan favorite, but he takes the unanimous award in the AL. In the NL, it is Howard Greenwood, a shortstop of the Diamondbacks organization, who kind of looks pretty boring. I guess he just played a really, really plus glove. He did hit 28 homers, so I guess the slugging was there to a degree. 119 WRC plus for Greenwood, who is a former 6th-round pick in 2027, so a little bit of an underdog narrative there. No recognition for, I don't think we had anyone really playing in this. Manager goes to the Angels, Edgar Varela, and our guy Melvin Brosbon takes it home for the NL. He says, "Thanks, but it wasn't just me out there this season." Humble king, Melvin Brosbon. Top hurler in the AL is a unanimous Logan Webb with the Yankees. 30 first place votes for him. Still holding it down at age 33. In the NL, it is a shocking upset. Dan Beebe does not win NL Cy Young. It is a split vote, but Paul Skeens handily takes it with 19 first-place votes. Paul Skeens had a great season, and he actually opted out of his deal and will hit the open market. He will be the top free agent pitcher on the open market. A 7.4 WAR season for Skeens, FIP minus of 62, sub-3 ERA, 11 K per 9. He looks tremendous. So both sides as well, good control, good movement. He's going to get paid a huge, massive contract. Dan Beebe unfortunately gets second place. He didn't quite have the same ERA as Skeens or the same WAR. They are just neck and neck all season long. So tough for our guy to place second there. They kind of trade places year over year. Gunnar Henderson is your AL MVP, sweeping at 30 first place votes. We'll take a look at his stat line. A 176 WRC plus is disgustingly good. 315 average, hit 36 homers for 121 RBI, 7.7 WAR. He is under a big contract that is fully guaranteed, so he's going nowhere. He's a cornerstone in Baltimore, and I believe that is his first MVP, if I had to check. It is. So, very highly decorated player, but first MVP recognition. In the NL, it is Emil Morales for the Dodgers. The 24-year-old first baseman hit 47 homers and 136 RBI. Also led the league in doubles. OPS over 1,000 for a 181 WRC plus, all while playing Gold Glove caliber defense at first base. So 7.1 WAR for the first baseman. He looks awesome. Obviously a very scary player, being so young as well on the Major League minimum. They have quite the steal. Our guy Connor Griffin actually gets fourth place, so he's not on the podium. He did not make the MLB TV interview segment, but he is there as well, and that is kind of our only recognition. A couple of down ballot votes for Nick Gonzalez, but this is the first year Ellie has not won it. Ellie has gone consecutive MVPs, and he finishes second. So that's a wrap on the early offseason, guys. I know, this probably went long, but I'm trying to do some good storytelling here. I think in next episode, we'll look to just finish the rest of the offseason. I think there will be a lot of dead air where I'm just simulating, but we'll try to find a way to spend this money. If I had to, I guess, think about, what we may do, I'll try to look for a talented starting pitcher that we can bring on. And then I think we just kind of funnel the rest of this back into player dev. We've operated at 25 mil. I would love to get this up to like 40. I don't think we need to oversaturate our team with a bunch of highly paid veterans. I think we can, play our young guys and be successful, but we also need to address the back end of our bullpen as well. We'll likely look to bring in 2 or 3 setup arms to pair with Mateo back there. So lots to look forward to. As always, I appreciate you watching. Let me know in the comments if you have any ideas about the team this upcoming season, what you would like to see us do. But otherwise, I will check back in with you in a few days, and we will, head into the 2031 season together, where hopefully we can defend our World Series championship.